Hey everybody, it's Shoreless, and as we all know, there are some class changes coming to LOTRO, and I want to talk about it. These changes, which perhaps coincide with the Before the Shadow expansion, include but are not limited to Hobbit lore masters, elf burglars, and dwarf captains. However, we can't discuss these changes without addressing that one thing. LOTRO has always tried to strike a balance between what's good for the game and what's true to the books, while often erring on the side of the books. So while adding new race and class availability may be good for the game, is it true to the books? Elf burglars are iffy. There are lots of examples of stealthy elfzizes ready to strike from the shadows in the books. We need look no further than the Galathreme who stalk the wood of Lothlorien soundlessly and ambush any and all trespassers. But are they burglars ready to sneak into a dragon's den and pilfer goblets? Probably not. Same goes for Hobbit lore masters. Farmer Maggot is a great example of a hobbit in tune with the natural world by way of his wisdom and his unlikely friendship with Tom Bombadil. But does that mean there should be dozens of halflings roaming the world, chucking lightning and hanging out with saber-toothed tigers? Probably not. Dwarf captains are even more dubious, which brings us around to the elder days of the game. Back when LOTRO first came out, each class was tied to a very specific reference in the book, which was often stronger in theory than in practice. So while the hunter being modeled off of Legolas is an obvious home run, saying that lore masters were inspired by Gandalf is a bit, The perfect example is tying the Guardian class to Samwise Gamgee. Sam never traipsed around in plate armor and a massive shield, but the determination he showed in protecting Frodo does go along nicely with a tank class. Likewise, the captain was modeled after Aragorn, who united all free folk under his banner in defiance of the enemy. Only men could be captains initially for this reason. None of the other races of Middle-earth could call the various other factions under their banner. Captain was extended to High Elves, but for the same reason. Gil-galad, a High Elf, was able to unite the last alliance against Sauron in the Second Age, so maybe one could do so again in the Third. But a dwarf captain? There's no precedent in the book, even a narrow one, that shows dwarves leading other folks. Gimli becomes a great friend to men and elves, but that's about it. He's not leading them into battle. Even an extremely precarious example like Helm Hammerhand as the inspiration for Brawler cannot be found for dwarf captains. I digress. If we accept the conceit of the game that ours is the unique, unsung hero of the age, then sure, anything is possible. And is any of this a deal breaker? Well, no. LOTRO will still be enjoyable and remain the finest video game adaptation of The Lord of the Rings anywhere. If it can survive Runekeepers and Battle Boars, then it can survive these changes. However, I would much prefer a total overhaul of the race and class system of the game. Make the various nations of men distinct from each other, rather than inventing new classes. Retool existing classes to better fit a given race, such as Elf Scouts, rather than Elf Burglars. Give non-men captains a bonus for fellowship members of the same race. Little things like this are both good for the game and true to the books. It's been confirmed that character creation is getting an update, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see.